Hello TBAkutos family, you welcome back to my channel. Thank you for liking, for subscribing, and for your thoughts in the comment section. God bless you. So this video is going to be a two-part video. The first one, which is this present video, is going to be all about the drafting of the skirt, the cutting, and the sewing of the skirts. While the second one is going to be solely for the top, the cow neck method, and the two-piece collar top. This is going to be a simple DIY video that you can try on your own. So without further ado, let's get into the video. I have the materials I'm going to be using for drafting sewing of the skirt and the top. I have the silky material and the crepe-like material for the skirts. I have my markers, and I also have my pattern. I have my skirt patterns, both the front and back, from waist to knee. I have my basic bodice block from shoulder to hip, and I also have basic sleeve block. I have all these videos how to draft your basic skirt, basic bodice block, and basic sleeve block on my channel. You can do well to check it. And I also have this beautiful pattern paper that I just cut. This pattern paper is going to save me a lot of headache because I'm just going to be cutting whatever length and width that I want. So for this skirt, I'm going to cut out the length of the skirt from the pattern paper instead of using my masking tape to join two pieces of pattern paper together. So I've gone ahead to measure the length on the pattern paper, and what I'm going to do is just to cut off to have the one I'm going to be drafting on. So the very first thing I used to do whenever I want to draft is to rule my border lines, which I love ruling. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to take my basic skirt block and I'm going to trace it out. I'm going to trace it out facing down because I want to manipulate my full front skirt, and to get the center front I need to face the pattern down. And once I'm done tracing it out, the next thing I'm going to do is to fold the pattern along the center line like so, in order for me to be able to trace it out just exactly the way I'm doing. I will go ahead to take my tracing wheel and trace it out. By the time I open it up, this is going to give me my full front skirt. So I'll go ahead to use my pencil to bring it out for us to see clearly before using my marker. The next thing I'm going to do is to trace out my back skirt just like the way I did for my front skirt, but my back skirt is going to be half, it's not going to be full back skirt. So I have the skirt fully traced out, and the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to use my black marker to trace it out clearly so that it is not going to be too faint for us to be straining our eyes to see it. So I have my full front skirt and my half back skirt. Once I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is to manipulate the skirt to the style I want. And the very first thing I'm going to do is to extend the skirt length. I don't want the skirt to be a knee length, I want it to be a full length. So I'm going to extend the skirt length, and this red marker is going to be used for the manipulation process. So I went down by the length of the skirt. That was the measurement I cut for the pattern paper. And once I'm done with the length, I went in to measure what I have around my knee area, and I took the measurement to the hem line and I connected it. That means I'm done with my full front skirt length. Now going to the back skirt, I'm going to replicate the same process for the back skirt. I'll be going ahead to draft the back skirt length, which is going to be the same as that of the front. With this, I'm done drafting my skirt length. Once I'm done drafting my skirt length, I'm going to start the manipulation proper. The first thing I'm going to do is to eliminate my waist dart. I have waist darts on this pattern and I don't want to sew the dart at all. So I'm just using my marker to highlight it so you will see where the dart is on the skirt. So I'm going to eliminate my waist dart at the side of the skirt. So I have both my front sides on this pattern. I'm going to be eliminating my waist dart. For instance, I have 3 centimeters the waist dart, and 3 centimeters is a little bit more than an inch. So I want to eliminate it. I'm going to come in by that 3 centimeters at both sides at the waistline, then connect it straight down to the hip line. With this, I don't have any darts on my skirt again. I'm also going to be eliminating the waist darts at the back, so I won't have any waist dart at all at the back. So just like the way I did for the front, I'm going to eliminate the 3 centimeter dart intake that I have then blend it to the hip and cancel like so. The next thing I'm going to do is for the style line of the skirt.
This is where the decorative buttons were put at the front of the skirt.
So from my center front, I'm going to come outward by some centimeters or inches to get this. You can use your dart line to get it. Even if you are not sewing your dart, you can use your nipple to get your dart, and you just go ahead to create the style line. So what I did was to come outward by 8 to 9 or 10 centimeters. I've forgotten the exact measurement. At the waist area, took it to the knee and to the hip, and I took my ruler to connect these lines together on a straight line. Now I have a two-piece front skirt. One is bigger than the other. The next thing I'm going to do is to tighten, contour or pencil my skirt. Whichever one you want to pick out of the three, just pick it out. The very first thing I will do is to go up at the knee area by 10 centimeter. 10 centimeter is 4 inches. I usually do this. I don't tighten exactly on the knee. If you want to tighten exactly on the knee, you can do it. It's not a bad choice. Some fashion designer tightened on the knee. Then what I'm going to do from the above the knee, or from the 10 centimeter I went up, I'm going to come in by 3 centimeter. 3 centimeter is more than an inch. So I'm going to go in by 3 centimeter because I don't want it to be too tight. I want to be able to walk freely. And I will also measure the 3 centimeters at the hemline at both sides of the front skirt, and I'm going to eliminate it like so. You can do 5 centimeter, which is 2 inches, or 4 centimeter, which is 1.5 inch, but for me I'm okay with the 3 centimeters. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to connect the hip to the new tightened knee or above the knee to give me that kind of contouring shape or that kind of hippie shape. So once I'm done connecting, this is what I have. I'm okay with this tightening because, like I said earlier, I don't want it to be too tight. It's a corporate outfit, so it's not an ashwebi or something. I just want it to look smart on my body. But if you want more tightening, you can do more. You can do 4, you can do 5, you can do 6, depending on what you prefer. So I just went in with my green marker to highlight my skirt pattern proper that I'm going to be sewing for this tutorial. Now I have the full front skirt that I want. I'm going to number that one, then the other side 2. And the next thing I'm going to do after labeling the hip, the knee, above knee and the hem line is to work on the back skirt. And what am I going to do on the back skirt is just exactly the same thing I did on the front skirt. I'm going to go up by 10 centimeters, just like the way I did on the knee on the front skirt, and connect together. Then at the side back of my skirt, what I'm going to be taking in is just the 3 centimeters I did on the front skirt. And at the center back, I'm going to be doing, I think, 2 centimeter. You can do 2.5. The maximum I always do is between 2.5 to 3 centimeters, which is 1 inch, 0.75 inches and 1.2 inches thereabout. And then I'm going to connect to the hem line because I did the same measurement along the hem line, and also connect both side, that is the center back and the side back, to the hip like the way I'm doing. And I'm going to cancel off that side. With this, I've tightened my skirts. It's going to be looking smart, fitted and nice on my body. These are the only things that I'm going to be doing. And once I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is just to cut off. So I'm going to be cutting off the excesses I have on the pattern away along the tightened line like so. This is what I have after cutting off. Along this very line, I'm going to asterisk it because I'm going to be separating the front bodies. What I'm doing next is to add my seam allowances. You can add any seam allowance as preferred. So the next thing is to separate this one side of the front piece from the other side of the front piece, because after separation, the next thing I'm going to be doing is just to go ahead to cut my skirt pattern on my fabric, or to transfer my pattern to the fabric. So I'm going to be having a slit along that very area. For the cutting process, I have this crepe like material, and I think it's 1.5 yard. So I'm checking for the right side of the fabric and the left side of the fabric, and I'm also checking how stretchy the fabric is. So I'm going to place my pattern paper 2 inches, that is 5 centimeters away from the edge of the fabric, because I want a kind of fold around that area. I went in to add all my seam allowances and I cut out like so, and I'm also going to be doing the same for this area. What I did for the first one, I'm also going to be coming out by 5 centimeters 2 inches like so, add all my seam allowance and then also cut off. The next piece I'm going to be cutting is the basket. So for the basket, I'm going to be folding my fabric into two because I need 2 pieces of my back skirt. I'm going to add my seam allowances round the basket and also go ahead to cut this piece out, and this is what I have after cutting the front piece and the back piece of the skirt. So I'm going to be joining the front piece like so at that very side. I'm going to be sewing them together and be joining them together, and I'm going to have a slit at the knee side. The waistband, I'm going to be cutting my waistband from this very piece, and it is time to sew. The very first thing I'm going to be sewing is the front piece of my skirt. You know what I cut was the full front skirt. Now I need to join those 2 pieces together to make my full front skirt. I'm going to face them up right side to right side, and the next thing I'm going to do is just to pin along the hem line to join them. So I'm going to go in to sew on my 1.5 centimeter, that is 0.5 inches to sew, and I'll come back to show you. Here I'm done sewing, and I've also gone to iron. If you remember, I added extra 5 centimeters, which is 2 inches on the front skirt. So I needed to add those inches or centimeter because I want the skirt to be folded like so. So I folded the smaller part of the front skirt. I folded it by 2 inches or 5 centimeters, and I want it to overlap the other side of the skirt. What I'm going to do is just to pin after the overlapping to secure the overlapping neatly, and I will go straight to my sewing machine to stitch the overlap side out. This is going to give an illusion effect of a button up skirt. So I'm going to go right ahead to go and sew along this edge at the other edge. Once I'm done sewing this edge, I'm going to place my back skirt, the side skirts, both side skirts of my front and back skirts. I'm going to place them together, and I'll go ahead to sew it at the side like so. Then I'll come back to show us. So here I'm done sewing the piece, and this is what it looks like. This is the overlap part where I said I'm going to put my buttons. I've also gone ahead to secure the edges of my inner piece with serger. I've also gone ahead to sew my side skirt, so I have a full skirt. And the next thing I'm going to be doing right now is to sew the center back of the skirt. The only place I'm going to be leaving out is where the zip is going to be. I'm going to be sewing like so, leaving where the zip is going to be. That is where I'm going to be attaching the zip. So I've gone ahead to cut my skirt band off camera, and this is what I have. I have 12 centimeters because I'm going to be folding it into 2 pieces to sew around the skirt. And the next thing I'm going to do is to notch the center piece of the skirt band and also notch the center piece of my main skirt. So I'm going to align the center piece of the band and the center piece of the skirt, that is
Center front of the band where I notched, and the wrong side of the skirt at the center where I notched.
and what I'm going to do is just to go around the skirt, and I'm going to pin it together carefully like so. Once I'm done pinning, I'll go ahead to sew my skirt along the waistline, and after sewing it, I will turn it over like so and sew the edge of the skirt at the outer part. I've sewn in the center back of the skirt, leaving where my zip is going to be.
I've also gone ahead to sew one side of the band together like so. This is how it's looking, and also ironed. I'm going to be turning it over to the other side and sew along or stitch along that very edge to give me a neat finishing.
I'm also going to sew in the hem line. I've ironed and folded in the seam allowance or my hem allowance. Once I'm done with this, the last thing that will be remaining is just the fixing of the zip and also the attaching of the buttons to the skirt or on the skirt. And when I'll be coming back, you'll be seeing the fully completed skirt. This is what the skirt looks like after sewing it. I decided to go in with different colors of buttons just to give the skirt its own beauty on its own. I love the fact that the skirt came out so nice and cool. What do you think about the skirt? I would like to hear from you and read from you. So you can try this kind of skirt on your own. It's simple, easy and straightforward to sew. The second part of this video is going to be all about the top. So thank you so much for watching the video. Till next time, bye bye.